October. So anyways, welcome. There are a lot of repeat people here, and we like you back. The agenda for tonight, welcome. I already did that. The next thing is who's hiring. We'll do some gratitudes. Then Jeff will deliver his speech, his talk about modernizing web apps. Then just snacks and mingling until we feel like going home. Co-organizers, I'm Ian Ring. You can Twitter me at that, Ian Ring. And Ned, thanks for helping out with organizing and all this stuff. Great. And the pizza came from Axonify, so thank you for the group. This is a group dedicated to front-end technology. It's called the front edge because of the front play on words. So JavaScript, HTML, and CSS, not just those. We should talk about other things too, but anything that's of interest to professionals who deal with that stuff. This is a nonprofit group. We get sponsorship from 2 companies right now. We are looking for more sponsors, so if you work for a company that might be grateful that you're coming out to something like this in your spare time, and might feel like donating like $20 a month, that would go a long way. Or, ask for 50. We're also looking for speakers. We'd like to pull from the local talent pool. Anything you're an expert in or that you feel like you could share with the group, talk to me about it or talk to Ned about it, and we'll get you booked in for one of these nights. Who's hiring? Nobody told me they're hiring this month. So the only one on the list is NetSuite. There are some jobs available. If you go to the job board, you'll find them. Right now, TravHR is not actually hiring. We filled their last 2 positions. They will hire again someday in the future, but right now, just NetSuite jobs. So everybody works on that side of this building. If your company is hiring, do send me a message, because I'd like to have more companies on this slide than just the one I work for. So gratitudes for, NetSuite provides the space and all the stuff and, the TV. Thanks to Stan for being our bouncer. Thanks a lot. And then Axonify and Ned for bringing the pizza and co-organizing the whole meetup. Some things for people who haven't been here before, I should mention every time. Avoid the stairwells. They lock at the bottom, and then when you come back up to try to escape the stairwell, they're locked at the top too. So you'll be trapped in there all night if you try to leave the building that way. I think you can get out on the 5th, maybe the 6th, but don't even try it.
You have all night to figure it out, though.
It's true. You'd be hollering for help. Somebody would come to your aid eventually, maybe by 6 or 7 in the morning on Friday.
Set off the alarm.
If you prop open the doors, a silent alarm goes off after about 20 seconds, I've been told, and it's an alarm you won't hear, but some really angry people will show up. So just don't prop open any doors. Well, I mean, these ones here don't matter, but the exterior ones. Move the chairs around, move the tables, get comfortable. Bathrooms. On the left, as I'm facing this way, on the left are the gentlemen and ladies on the right. Dutra? Dutra?
Dutra was right.
Dutra, sorry. And,
I don't care either way.
And he's going to tell you about modernizing web applications. So you're welcome.
Is that okay, the brightness of these lights up front here? I think it's fine.
Oh, I'm actually going to turn them down a bit because they cause a lot of glare on the TV. So these things, brightness.
Nothing less than perfection for me, please.
Oh,
Great. But Facebook, people are like, we need somebody else here too if you want to. Because then you kind of you need just some background. So if your background is fine, you have that whole thing working for you. But Facebook also released Flux. And the whole idea is kind of the React model is a unidirectional data flow. One-way data flow. It's a fancy way of saying one-way data flow. And works great with React, obviously. That's kind of the point. And they kind of say more of a pattern than framework. It's a very small library. I don't know how many K it is, but not much. And it's kind of similar to like a pub sub type of thing, but they try to say it's not really like that. From an explanation point of view, it's pretty much what that is. So it's like a simple look at it. So you have your view layer, and for view, you trigger actions, whether it's a button, and that triggers some things to happen. So it could be an AJAX call to your back end to get data, whatever it is, and then The dispatcher does what it needs to do, handles the action, updates these things called stores, and then stores say, hey, we've updated, and the component, the views that care about those stores update themselves with the data. It's the simplest kind of way to look at it. We'll look at it extensively as more and more as we go through this. So action creators are other kind of like helper methods for you, so they'll put all things together to trigger all the things your application needs to do. So every action is sent to has via callbacks to the dispatcher. So you send the dispatcher, you basically say when you're done, these are the things you need to call after the fact. And then the stores is where you actually store your data. Kind of obvious, I guess, but so it can. So from an MVC point of view, you don't have to think of it just one model there. Like it could be more of like a domain thing. So it could be a couple different things you're storing in it that are very similar to each other. They may actually come from different AJAX calls or whatever, different actions, but it may just things that make sense to be together in the store. So, yes, it's a lot of callbacks, right, when the store comes back. So a store registers itself with the callback. And it says, every time you dispatch something, let me know. So every time dispatch happens, every store finds out about it. And basically, it's mostly through switch statements. There's other ways to do that if you don't want to. It says, do I care about this action? Because they all track actions with the data with it. Do I care about this action? If I do, I'm going to do this to my store and make the change and let the components that are listening to me know I've made a change. It's basically the whole point. And so change events and store queries, I'll go to the store. So you can do validation if you want there, all that kind of thing. You treat it as like a bit of domain, part of your domain. So you create the creators, it goes through usually you create some utilities to talk to your web APIs. And so you can, your callbacks for like if you're using jQuery, like the whole done or fail, how you handle that. So you can have a fail action or a success action, and that may affect your app in different ways. So you can always have like some error module that listens to like the error store if you want. That like let's if there's a back-end overall error, you can do it there and just keep it through your whole app in case anything happens. You know, the catch-all. I don't know why there's no. Alright. So yeah. So the dispatcher is a singleton object, so it just kind of stays around the whole time. And propagates all the source through callbacks, I said before, and it's triggered by a dispatch call. So you call the dispatch, and that's what triggers like the whole process to happen for that action. So people can see that. It might be small. Can you guys see that a little bit? Okay. Yeah, the code is all on GitHub too. If you really want to look at it, you can do it there. So, this idea of view actions and server actions. So sometimes, let's say, if you trigger an action to load a bunch of data, maybe you want to let your application know that you're waiting for data now to have some loading thing happen while that's happening. So you can have it like a pre-server fetching action that lets the user know something's happening for them. And then the server action is when you kind of catch it on the way back. So your callbacks usually for the AJAX calls, I usually go there. And then the same thing, they just dispatch, and then again, they dispatch with the action, you pass an action to it, and then you just kind of go with it. Then you just kind of go through the whole process, and you'll see the store, I think, next. Oh, action creator. So any objects, whether arrays or whatever, so it passes it usually passes the type of action it is, and the actual object you want to pass in. You can pass multiple objects, you can pass whatever you want, it's just a function, you can pass whatever you want to it. It just passes an object, so whatever you want it to be. And then it flows into the store, so callbacks to define and register. So that's usually an action creator. So again, there's your common JS requires up top. And then you basically, when you say you want to do an initial load at the beginning of your app, you call that load all, and you say when you're done your AJAX call, there's your callback to deal with, and that'll handle its dispatch. And then you can have multiple stores may care about that. Like some stores may want different parts of that data callback, and so they can handle it that way, and the stores can decide what they want from it. So Microsoft also created this thing called Key Mirror, so you can have kind of like the email type thing, where what it does is, so if you say receive characters, the value also becomes receive characters, so you can use it as a switch statement. So you can use like character constants dot action types dot receive characters in your code, so you don't have to have like magic strings everywhere. It's a nice little library that kind of helps with that, makes it a little easier to read. And then of course that's just your API util, right? That's just jQuery Ajax call, and then you have your success callback command. Make sense? So I guess to kind of go with Flux. So when Flux first came out, there was like 100 Flux libraries that all pretty much kind of did the same kind of thing, but they all have their own opinion of what Flux should be. And most of them have died out because they've kind of moved to like, there's two camps now. There's a library called Redux for the people who know much about React. Redux and Flux is releasing a new version to make that better. It's no longer a singleton object because people want to do like hot reloading with their web pages. And if it's a singleton, you can't like recreate the initial data you had there because you have to start over again. So there's some issues with that. So that's starting to change a bit so that it don't have to all be singletons anymore, especially in the stores. So it's not just MVC, right? So it's not just the idea of one model in the stores. And again, the register is through callbacks. And they broadcast change events. So this will be even probably harder to read because it's fit all on the screen. Okay, so this is plumbing code you don't need to have, but I just showed it so you can actually see the whole process. So this is when you register to the dispatcher, and then you have your case statement saying which actions you care about and what you want to do. And when you finish your action in the store, you call that init change. So the components that rely on these stores know to grab their new props or update their state, that kind of thing. Not grabbing new props because it's custom, but yes. So yeah, so your change event, and so you can of course use an assign there. I'm using their assign, but you can use Bodash or underscore as assign if you want. And then you can, those init change, add change, remove change listeners, of course, you can make that a common object that you extend here if you want to. And then you can, so that's like the cleanup. So when you leave your React component, you want to call this remove change listener. And when you mount your React component, you want to add that change listener. So of course, you can know when the store updates. And you can then remove it. So that's what a component looks like when it's talking to the store. So every time so you have that listener, so every time the store emits a change, that onChange function runs. Okay. And then you update your state accordingly. And we have a demo, I think. Some demo. That's a PowerPoint, right? I guess. Hopefully demo works. That's usually important. Okay. Of course, I'm not duplicate. So you guys saw nothing there. That's great. Not much better what you see now, right? Blank app. So let me. So people haven't seen Webpack. I'll kind of get that going in a second. I'll kind of zoom in some stuff too, so you can see better. That's an issue. So if you look at my this is Visual Studio for non-Microsoft people, non-Microsoft developers. If you ever see this ID, what is this weird ID? Don't worry, I won't see much of that. I use WebStorm for most of my front end stuff. Sorry, I have it ready to go. Okay, so if you look at my package.json, I'll have some npm commands ready to go. And so if you, sorry, is that better? Mm-hmm. Okay. So I have different Webpack commands for obviously your different environments. So when we build our project in Visual Studio, we have the ability to do like pre-built commands. So for like release mode, we run the prod npm. What we're going to do is dev, because that enables, should work fine all day and yesterday, that enables hot reload. So as you're changing your code, it should actually be changing the web page as you go with it, but maintaining the state of the app while you're doing it. So hopefully it works, because it's fun. So let's run one. Which one do I want? npm dev. Yeah. So npm run dev. And so, I'm going to kick off one command, I'm going to run start my server up. So for it to do the hot reloading, it's got to spin up, it's basically an express server. It spins up, oh great. There's linting for you. It is annoying, isn't it? Let me just finish that up. Where was it? Line 15. Nice. How dare I? Not this anything. So while that's running, I'm going to show you what the server looks like. So I'm running an ASP.NET website, so it's going to run on a different port than the JavaScript hot reloading has to go on. So I have to enable cross-origin scripting to work. But you're just in dev mode, right? You're just on a local machine, it's not a big deal. If you're using if you're using Express backend Node the whole way, you want to do this, you can do that with all just in the one process in the one port. You don't have to worry about it. Okay, so npm start. npm start the funnel. So it creates the thing to run on port 3000, and it kind of does that. Okay. Get rid of those. Red's not a good color, right? We don't want to see red. So it's got some routes to it, so we don't care about that much. So you got your list, and so there's some cool things like what I got on the list, so don't forget. Okay, so if you want to inspect things, there's a nice, I can go full screen on this. React created a tool, which is actually very cool. So you can see your whole app. You can go to it easy for people too. And then you can see the actual, all the components. So you can then see, okay, here's this nice component of character list, which is the div, and there's a data grid. So you see that they're the actual components that you're building in your React component. So if you click on data grid, you can see the state, and you can see the characters, you can see all that. Pretty cool. This changed relatively recently. And so you can also do, I believe, show source, and it takes me to the, did that work? Oh, I don't think I ran into bug mode. So it should take me to the source map, I just didn't write in the right mode. So when you do that in your React component, and you go to it, and run source maps, if you have source maps running, it'll actually take you to the actual source map code that binds that component. Can you guys even see that? That's true. Anyways, you can see all the characters, see all the cool things. It's awesome. And then you can go to your so let's do this. Got it? Catalog. That's what folders look like. You guys remember? And say add component, and I think it's have a. This one just add. Weird how it's not showing up now. I feel like it's the wrong version of that. No, it's fine. Okay. So I have the main app, and I should have a component that is character add. For some reason, I don't see it. It's really weird. Obviously, here. Oh. I knew it wasn't crazy, right? Not crazy, right? I guess crazy people don't know if they're crazy, so it's not a good question to ask. Okay, so I have multiple text inputs. Please work. I'd be so sad if it didn't. I don't want to be sad. I think that worked, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so things like this, right? So you have, let's just say through some situation you have a modal that pops up, takes you 6 interactions to get there. Kind of annoying, refresh, start over again. The good thing about this is that it should, as you save, is it going to work? Is it going to work? Also will, so it also will reload that, and I lost my state, didn't I? Should have lost my state. Of course that worked. So it also does, I might not work, but sometimes it gets weird with the, when you do things like that. So if I did this, or let's say I just want to see that also what will happen is your lenting still happens. So you'll get missing semicolon if you want. So it'll still give you all that while it's happening. So you don't have to feel like you're totally in the dark. I'm not sure why the state's not saying this, like something's not working properly. But usually it keeps the state fine as you change it. But so the good thing is that it keeps my route history. It's not starting my app over again. Like sometimes with these reloads, these auto reloads, you have to like go back to where you were before. And so you can also, you can add more of these. Drag and drop. Also want to show all I want to do. You can create a new one. Okay, copy and paste. Whoa, that's not what I want. Copy and pasting is usually not this hard, but it is when 20 people are watching you, I guess. All right, so you create another thing if we want. We know there's another state object. So with these inputs, so I haven't had much opportunity in my life to make a component so reusable. All it is an input box, but it's happening. So because you can make these components, you can pass everything to it, it starts making sense to make small modules, because sometimes it'd be difficult when you have to do that, because you have to go where to find your files, it's really a pain. But this allows you to do that. And so what you can do is you can also have default props. So if you have a text box that doesn't have validation, if no one passes validation to it, you just treat it as true. So you can make these reusable components that handle different things. Now sometimes commonizing code is more of a pain than a help, because sometimes you create these like giant factories of like, I need 1,000 lines to create buttons because of all the different variations of buttons I need. Sometimes you just make 4 different files and you're fine. But this actually has some chances where you can then provide default things in your default props. Same with default state, same idea. Like I had this one, but so this should be. So hey, see, it's an error. It's a warning now. I know it's like to me, I think it's super exciting. But the guy who actually did it, his name is Dan Abramoff, and he actually in his demo at the React conference in Europe, he live coded his whole presentation. His presentation was a React app. He's actually live coding the whole thing. He's showing the hot reloading thing working. And then the good thing with his is right now the limitations I'm using default flux. And since it's a singleton, if I change my flux stores and my flux data, it's got to reinitialize the app because of the fact it's a singleton. With Redux, the other implementation where flux is going to, you can actually recreate your actions again. So you actually has dev tools that show all the actions you're applying. So you can go like back in time, go like, what did my app look like 4 steps ago? So it's really cool. I really recommend it. I should post it on the GitHub thing. But it's a really good thing to really show how you can really create really rich environments for developers anymore without having to go F5, go through your whole process. It's really quick, and then since this thing's running in its own process, right, it bundles pretty quickly. Like some of that stuff, like we have a pretty big bundle, and it works okay. So this one's obviously a small bundle, but again, you're not waiting for a long reload because you got to reload because you got a cache. Like I don't even have cache killer on. I don't know if people use cache killer with source maps. Sometimes I find in Chrome it doesn't always clear cache with source maps. I don't know if people have found that before, but it's really frustrating. It's like I'm hitting Control F5. Why will this not work? So I use cache killer in Chrome just to totally. But sometimes I forget I have it on. I'm like, why is this website so slow? But of course it's not caching it. Let's see what else I got. So the tools, hot reloading, did that. That will show the webpack process. Any questions about any of this? No? Okay, so
Question.
yeah.
So you mentioned like you started this process of updating a legacy website. So I'm guessing like you would like just start with div, just gem React, and then like did you have to do anything like when you have like a legacy web page and you're just making a small change.
So one process we did, I could finish PowerPoint, but I can just talk about it. One process we did was, like I first went around to like the actual decision makers that actually to say how much money we're gonna spend on software. And I went to them first to figure out where are our problems. The problems is our web development is a disaster. It takes forever to do anything. And we want that to be better. I'm like, okay, sweet. I have a solution, I think. Come back in a month. And so we started having like pages where they have like detailed pages or something. And they may call different data sources. So we started creating things that load within an existing page that would have its own API call everything, so it actually exists on its own. Because we have customers that have our software in different versions and maybe they don't want certain features available. So we thought we can just create features and they're totally self-contained. So it does its own API calls, everything lives within itself. So that's how we kind of started with stuff like that. Then we had an opportunity for a small single page app. We did that. Had some issues, of course, with a new library and some new developers to it. That had issues, but honestly, now we're at a point, we have 7, 8 developers working on it. I can go to different projects, sit in, and know where to find things, and know how to help debugging relatively quickly. That hasn't always worked for me in JavaScript apps especially, but apps in general, it's never worked for me. But I'm finding now we're kind of following similar processes. We know, oh, that seems like a store problem. What store is this listening to? You know where to go to the component. You know where to go to the render thing. Like this thing, if it had source maps, when you go into the React DevTools, it actually takes you right to the render method, and you put your breakpoints in there, all that stuff like that. So I find the development experience very rich, and adding like little pieces like that is a good way to start. So you don't have to fully commit to it. You can be like, we're just gonna make this one little thing. The issue is sometimes if the rest of the page is like a statically delivered page, all of a sudden you have one little thing that's loading, and so everything else is there, and all of a sudden, oh, this thing showed up a little late to the game. So we have to worry about sometimes that design problem. So you can do a server-side rendering to help alleviate that. But most apps now, if like you use a lot of like apps that you use project management on, people are used to the whole not everything loads initially at first, right? So that wasn't too big of a problem. Does that answer your question? I don't know if that.
Yeah, I'm guessing the jamming that into legacy stuff, you solved that manually. You didn't.
Yeah, so we use Webpack to build it all. You just allocate a div tag on the page for it. You just inject it right into that part of the page. It's basically what we did.
So React DevTools is a plugin in the
Chrome. They just it was kind of crappy at first, but they released it in September and it was much better. So the whole idea to be able to click on that part of the page and see all the data that exists within it, to me, is like a huge benefit when it comes to debugging. Any other questions? And so I can show you again. Everyone heard GitHub before? I'm kidding. GitHub Bootcamp. Am I not logged in? I must be. What the? See, look, it's loading late, right? Even GitHub does it. That's super weird. So this is the repository. And so what was I going to show you? Oh yeah, I think. So this is it. So everything's pretty much there. If you're not a .NET person and you don't understand how to get the basics going, everything that you really need is within the Superhero Finder app, and then you have your package.json, of course, and then the server and the Webpack stuff. So I have 4 different configs for Webpack because you want to do different things. Like, so you create like a base object where you look for your basic, where does my app start, and then you kind of load any plugins you want. And so I only use jQuery for Ajax calls now. That's all I use, because I need IE8 support, so I can't use some of the nicer Ajax libraries. But that's all I use jQuery for now. Like, we got rid of our jQuery widgets and stuff like that. It's like, it's so weird to write web code and not use jQuery. It's odd for me. Other people have experienced that for longer than I have. That's like, it's a big deal, and doing that forever. And so then you create loaders. It's a Webpack basically thing. So you load your Babel stuff. So you decide if you want to support IE8. And there's actually a cool, I hope it's on here, when you do your production. I can't wait till one day to say true on this. That'll be fun. It's actually an option if you guys can read it. How about that? No kidding, that's what it's actually called. So it's actually a parameter. You say screw it changes the mangle process. So it mangles a lot more when you compress it. So we find that it makes sense to have different config files, and then The big one is the development one, which is the one that does the hot reloading. So it makes a point. So it creates a bundle, and what it does is it creates like a virtual bundle, and it points to the one that is running in the process and keeps reloading. Okay, any other questions? We good?
So where is that
Oh,
integration point between Web API? Because you show Visual Studio and then you switch to Web Store.
People are scared of Visual Studio the first time.
But
so,
this-
so API, like to me, API, you can use whatever the hell API you want. You can use Express and have a web service there or whatever you want to do. It doesn't really matter from this point because whether it's RESTful or not, like React has a cool actually relay thing where they actually have implementations in main languages. The components themselves decide what data they want to show, and it kind of bubbles up, and it creates a query so you don't do, it kind of solves the overfetching, underfetching problem, where you actually define the data you need for your component, and it kind of bubbles up, creates the query you need, and actually processes everything. Now, it's weird at first to be like, but you're gonna have like all these weird things bubble up, but again, underfetching can be a problem, but so can overfetching. It's like one of those things like to remove a property. Then you're like, oh, I don't think I need it anymore, except one little page needed it. So the web API part to me is they're just web services. Again, I don't think that's a whole separate thing into itself, how to structure that well, and what persistence layer you use, those things like that. I'm not an expert at that, but I know quite a bit about it. But that's to me is just a detail. Like to me, it's about I have to change the front end because it was terrible. In the back end, we had ASP.NET, so they have web API. It's actually a very good web service HTTP thing to use. You don't have to. It's pretty straightforward. But yeah.
That's part of Flux, yeah.
The web API, no, Flux just talks to your API. So Flux is just your point that talks to APIs
Yeah.
and then updates your stores to let them know the data.
So
just like the middleman to get your views with the data it needs is what it's doing.
The part of Flux is in this project, yeah.
Yeah, so all the stores, so you look at the JS file and then you'll have your actions, which is the things that create all your dispatchers and stuff. So that's all there, that's all Flux. Again, Flux is not necessarily a library, you don't see a lot of require Flux anywhere. It's mostly the dispatcher, and then you have your store, which is pretty straightforward. And then here's my factory that creates base stores, so you don't have to do this all the time. And then you can create cool little things that update your bag of data or whatever, but this is basically what a store looks like. So it listens to this action, it sits in it. You can have things like get character count, so you don't have to like get an array. So if you want to use an object collection instead of array, you don't really care, and so that way you can handle that kind of thing. But that's all Flux is. So the dispatcher is what is the you're using the node kind of dispatcher there. So yeah, not much Flux there.
But the initial trigger is that web API.
You make an action creator that calls an AJAX call that calls your API service. Again, whatever your API is, Rails or what you want.
So you have that one here?
Yeah, it's all there. So the whole app runs. Like, so people who know ASP.NET and stuff, it's using the whole app uses any framework that has a seed data. So the database is if you had SQL Server, if you know SQL Express, it totally run. You can totally run it, and it runs the data, updates data, everything. It comes like I didn't do anything. I just reloaded this whole thing today, and then the app it kind of exists. So I don't have to do anything. Whatever the hell the URL is. I close it. Doesn't matter. So. Yeah, so that's basically it. So if you know what you're doing with .NET and have SQL Express at least, you can run that. The seed data is all there, and you pick it up. But honestly, you can do whatever you want. You just get there's a million examples. Like if you go to also React, and then, but yeah, a lot of the cool talks have been done. They've had 2 major conferences, and there's a lot of good talks that have gone on at those things that really explain it. So an awesome React is like a nice resource for like everything you could possibly want to do. So there's examples of how to go from Backbone to start using React in your views. Like there's lots of edge cases for that because so many people have done it. So this was to me was a huge resource for me getting started because there's tons of tutorials. Like we're not using React. You can use React and Angular if you want. So it's like different stories if you want to start playing with it. Okay.
There is a new trend now with this RxJS, reactive programming and stuff.
Reactive, yeah.
So is React integrated with?
No, it's not integrated with that. Like some people argue that React isn't truly a reactive library. I don't really know enough on that argument to really say whether it is or not. But other people have created libraries they thought were more reactive than React, and I'm saying React a lot. But basically, like, again, in the end, you can debate all these points, right? You can really spend time on the margins. But the thing was, for me, I had limited options, you know, when you want to slowly go into something. Maybe if I was writing a whole app, a whole startup app, maybe I wouldn't pick it. I think I would because I really like it. I really like where it's going. I find it very easy to understand. The JSX is weird at first, Flux is a little weird at first, but once you get going and get a little used to it, it's pretty easy to understand how your app is running. It's again subjective. We good? All right, thanks guys.